Hello, welcome to LinkedIn Live. Tracy Bedwell, I'm so delighted that you've been able to join us today. So Tracy and I are going to be chatting about the Pitch One-to-One research report, which is all about getting connected on LinkedIn. And Tracy will introduce herself in just a moment, but as my introduction to Tracy, we met at the wonderful Uplift Live conference back in March. And we got talking straight away about what makes you get connected. We were lucky enough to get a little vox pop of you as well. So I'm just really delighted that from there we've been able to have quite a few catch-ups and that we can do one live on LinkedIn today. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
For those that don't know you, Tracy, do you mind just giving a really quick intro to say what you do, what your company does?
Sure. Okay. Well, we have been in business now for 25 years. We started, 26 actually. We started off just as a sales training company with just me, because that is my background. That is what I do, sales training. That's what I've always done. Before that, I was national sales manager for corporate companies and so on. But we've grown over the year now. So we're now quite a big training company. There's over 30 trainers. And we deliver sales training still, but we do all sorts of different types of training as well, like Lean Six Sigma, finance, leadership, lots of different things globally, and we deliver in 8 different languages.
Amazing. And I think it's so important when we're looking at LinkedIn that we don't see it as a standalone, that it's part of the sales mix, part of the marketing mix. But we're getting really quite nerdy with our report. It's about how to get connected on LinkedIn. And it came about from the question that John Asperian and I were talking about. When LinkedIn closed down the number of connection requests that you could send out with a note, how much does that really matter or not? And I know we had a bit of a chat about it, and there are a couple of things that you said on the video, and I re-listened to it, and I'm pleased to say that you remember exactly what you said as well, don't you? Yeah. And it was I think the first thing you talked about was the profile, and why do you think the profile is important? You know, obviously we're talking about messages and adding a note. But just talk about your habits on LinkedIn and why you think that matters so much.
Well, as I can say, these are only my habits. I don't know whether everybody does this, but when I get a connection request, irrespective of whether it's got a note attached to it or not, I just don't automatically say yes. I have a look at their profile because I want to I am very, very choosy as to who I connect to. So I take a look at that person's profile and decide, is this somebody who I think would add value to my network? And is this somebody who I could add value to? And if the answer is no, it doesn't matter whether they've put a note on it or not, I don't connect to them. So for me, the LinkedIn profile is the most important part of the equation, because that's what I look at when I get a connection request in.
Yeah. And I've been saying quite a few times recently, let your profile do the selling, and then you don't have to do the selling in the inbox, which brings us nicely on to the second point that you made about pitch slapping.
Yes. So I hate it when you get a LinkedIn request to connect and it comes with a note telling you all about why you should connect to them, because it's just all about them, isn't it? It's just all me. And it doesn't matter who they are. If I get a connection request and it has a note in saying we are this and we can do this, and it's just a straight no from me. And I feel like probably most people are the same. For me, I don't even look at their profile at that point. It's just a no. So pitch slapping happens on connection requests. It also happens as soon as you've connected to somebody. Yeah. You know it, you connect to them, and like an hour later, boom, in your inbox. Thank you for connecting. We do this. We sell that. We can help you do this. Can I get a quick Zoom call with you? Can we hop on a chat? No, we absolutely can't. So this pitch slapping thing is a complete turn off for me, whether it's connected to a connection request or it lands in my inbox straight after I've connected, because at that point I'm going to disconnect from you.
Yeah. And if that's how you're feeling personally, and I feel exactly the same, it will be I used to connect to them to say, do you want a bit of LinkedIn training? But
so thick-skinned. I've tried that. They're basically so thick-skinned that it doesn't work. I just
no. And if it's sent out in volume, they're probably only just anyway. But when we started this testing, I thought that it would always be it depends, because a note will do better if it's a good note, and it'll do worse if it's a bad note. And one thing that our research showed is that if you ask anything other than do you want to connect, then it's actually negative to the connection acceptance rate. So even if you're trying to get people to engage in your event or something like that, not actually a sales thing, and it actually can be a really good reason for you getting in touch, but just asking a question that is anything other than connect didn't work very well in all of our tests. But actually the other thing that came up, and I know that this is really something that we've spoken about, is that if you put a message in the connection, people are more likely to have an ongoing conversation with you. That came through really strongly. And I know that's the sort of thing that you would absolutely support, is getting the conversation going.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting when I was reading your report, because I really agreed with when it said, if you're just sending out a connection request, whether you put a note on it or not, it doesn't generally make that much difference. It was kind of like a 50-50 split, wasn't it, in your report? And I would agree with that. I've tested that myself for clients and for my own sort of research. And I've sent like 100 out with a note and 100 out without a note. When I'm talking about a note, I mean like a standard note, and the connection's been no difference. What I would say is when I send out a connection request to somebody whom I've really researched the profile, or I've looked at some of their recent posts, and I've put something on like, I really liked your recent post on this in particular, really, I thought, great point. I would love to connect to you. That has worked really well. And I'm going to give you a little tip. Do you know what? And I ought to have told you this before, and I haven't, Laura, but I've just come into my mind. What has changed the connection request rate for me dramatically is when I add a note, if I end that note by saying, if you're accepting new connections, I would love to be one of them, that shot my connection requests right up.
Brilliant.
It's a bit human.
Yeah.
So I think when I talk about them, not offering them something, not asking them to download anything, not just talk about something they've said or done, and say, if you're accepting new connection requests, I'd love to be one of them. That shot my connection request far higher than the normal.
Do you know why I think that is? We're in sales. We're taught to have no doubt. Don't use any hedging words on your email. You would always say, your solution will do this, not it might do this. You're always taught from years ago to be so assumptive. Yet on LinkedIn, the more you sort of go assumptive in that sort of way that you were taught sales, the more it seems to put people off. And I found that hedging words can really help a sentence. So, maybe we should catch up one day rather than, are you free for a call on Tuesday or Thursday? That sort of thing. And I don't know how else to describe it except to use hedging words. It's like give people the option to say no seems to go down a long way.
Well, in our sales training, when we do a proper sales training course, we, if you like, even have this like swear jar at the front of the room. And we say, anytime you mention anything about your product or service or anything it can do, you put £1 in that jar until I tell you you can. Until I tell you can. And that point in the sales process is a long way down, Laura, a long way down. All you're doing at the start of any interaction, whether it's an actual sales meeting or whether you're trying to get something going on LinkedIn, is trying to build some rapport, trying to find some common ground, asking questions, just trying to get a conversation going.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about this the other day, weren't we? When you go to a networking event, you don't walk in a room and just say hi and leave it at that. But you also, if you went into a networking event and walked up to a person and said, hello, Laura, my name is Tracy and I run Sales Training International and I would really like to tell you about my company. Now, we do some great courses. This is how much they cost. Would you like to buy one? You would be running out of that networking event as fast as we don't do it in real life. But it seems like there's different rules on LinkedIn that kind of think, oh, we'll just send them this and it'll work. It doesn't work in the real life. So it's not going to work on LinkedIn either.
Yeah, at the very beginning of my sales career, I learned pretty early on, I think it was my first networking event, that the number of business cards you've managed to acquire is not a successful networking evening. You know, it's and the amount of people who didn't have a business card with them. And this was years ago when everybody did, because you know that you've approached it in the wrong way. And the same rules, asking people, you know, like, you know, being curious about them, showing interest in them, seeing how you can help them. And as soon as you give and you're genuinely adding value, people want to do the same in return. And you're right, LinkedIn is just the same as that.
Just the same, yeah. And I think that point you just raised is really good, that in the old days, you know, you used to get those business cards and come back and feel quite proud that you collected 100 business cards. I think people feel a bit like that on LinkedIn now, wrongly.
Yeah.
I've just got 100 connections. So what?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean anything. It's just like collecting those business cards.
Yeah. Do you know what? Mick Adam has made a comment here, and Mick has said personal requests are the start of a conversation, but it has to be something both parties should contribute. Which I thank you for your comment, Mick. Keep them coming. I actually remember when I connected to Mick, and yeah. And he put out a poll, and I remember, because we only actually met in person back in March, the same time as we met at Uplift Live. It was because he'd put a poll out, and I was like, great poll. I would really love to, you know, see more of your content.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something about, you know, a little bit of flattery, yeah, but also it just sounding genuine, that it had just come from that moment. And he replied to say, I'd like to engage in your content too. And he's been good to his word. And you know, it's just a great way to start off, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
So talking of the we've got a hi from Ireland.
Hello, Sam. Lovely Sam from Ireland. I know Sam well.
Oh, do you? And we got
hello, everyone.
So talking of sort of community and things like that, there was a great video in the research report from Oscar Rathling, who is the son of Sam Rathling, who I know is a good friend of yours.
Really good friend of mine, yeah.
Excellent. And Oscar was probably the youngest person at Uplift Live, and certainly he told a story about his post going viral, and it was a fantastic story. And Oscar got onto our VoxPop video, and he said, yes, I do measure connection acceptance rate. And actually, it's amazing how many people don't, because LinkedIn don't make it very easy. But he said, yes, I do. I have it all on an Excel sheet. And for me, it has to be 50% or more, which I think is a brilliant, quite a high standard to try.
That's a high percentage to maintain. I normally say if you're at about 35.
Me too. Yeah.
Really well. So 50 is fantastic.
Yeah. And if he's getting that's fantastic. And it made me think about, I heard you on Informed with Mark Williams, and you were talking about how you do LinkedIn groups for a lot of your lead gen. And you were very kind and generous and said how you work with groups. And it made me wonder, are the connections that you're getting from your group interactions, is the acceptance rate a lot higher than you're sort of having engaged in their posts?
Yes, it is. I think LinkedIn groups is all but the free version of, I shouldn't put this out there because LinkedIn will probably then cancel this as well as a free thing. But I think LinkedIn groups is the free version of Sales Navigator for me. I think anybody who doesn't want to pay for Sales Navigator, go to LinkedIn groups. Let's think about LinkedIn groups for a minute. A group is a group of people who have said, I am interested in this subject, or this is my job role. That's basically how they define most LinkedIn groups. It's a group for particular job roles, or it's a group for a particular subject. Now, let's take me, for example. I'm interested in two different types of groups. I'm interested in sales groups. because I like to talk to sales managers and sales directors, but I'm also interested in L&D groups, because predominantly the people who are going to sign off using us are an L&D manager or an L&D director. So I'm a member of a few L&D groups and a few sales groups, select ones. I've done my research, Laura. I think that's the important thing. Okay. Yeah. I'm not a member of 100 groups. I've got about 7 or 8 L&D ones, 3 sales ones. I've done my research. I've joined the groups. I've observed them. I've seen, is this the right place? Is this the right people? Then when I decide yes, Wednesday is my group day. On a Wednesday, I create no LinkedIn posts on my business page or my personal page. It's group day. I create a post for the sales group and a post for the L&D group. Never selling our products and services, always thinking, what might the people in this group need or what might help them? Yeah. And that's what I do. So it could be an infographic, it could be a PDF file, it could be anything. It could be lots of different things. It could be short video. And I do 2 things on a Wednesday. Those posts do very well for me. Some of them have like 300,000 views, but with that comes like a couple of 100 likes, like 100 shares and so on. So I have a look at who's interacting with my posts. And I think, could this be a good potential person? And a lot of the time it is, because they're L&D, you know. And then that's a great way to say, thank you so much for interacting with my post. I really appreciate it. I would love to connect if you're accepting new connections, and 9 times out of 10 they do. Yeah. And then we have a good conversation. Was already in a similar group, we have similar interests, they've interacted with me. Equally, I look at other posts in those groups and interact with them. And of course you can open up the members of the groups and you can see who the members are. And you can, so for me, if you're joining the right groups, you never need to use another search method to find the right people. Yeah. Because right there in the groups for you, and with a little bit of effort of posting and interacting on other people's posts, boom.
Fantastic. And I think the people who have interacted in your post are the real gold, just because they've acted first. Yeah. And I think that is even the most skeptical person who, you know, would be very cautious about who they connect to, when they've made the first move, no wonder they're going to accept your connection request. Yeah.
I add about 20 new connections a week from my groups. Yeah. And out of those connections, I normally end up having 2 or 3 conversations every week from the groups.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I feel that we are getting towards the end here, but there was one thing that you mentioned about the groups, and I'm really curious. I know that you're a big fan of sales assets. I think that you were on a Espresso Plus community chat that I was on, and you were saying about how many sales assets you have, and you don't know how people do sales without them. I think it'd be a really nice point to finish on, is how are you using those sales assets on LinkedIn in order to start conversations, get connections accepted, and so on?
So I use them in 2 ways really on LinkedIn. First of all is in my posts. So that obviously I'm using those assets to create content on LinkedIn that hopefully people will engage with. But secondly, I think, and more importantly, I'm using them once we're connected. Going back to what I said before, the connection to someone's the easy bit. It's what you do with that connection to move it into the real world afterwards. What's the hard bit? Yeah. So for me, I wait a few days and then I reach out to the person who's connected to me and I try and start a conversation. So obviously I talk about something that's happening in their industry, in their company, some recent posts, whatever. I do my research. Yeah. But then I think about which of my assets might be valuable to them. Now I've got quite a lot. You don't need as many as I've got. I have like white papers, blogs, videos, infographics, PDFs, ebooks, all sorts. Okay, but say you have really 10 superb, what I call lead magnets. Yeah, yeah. You could then have a look at this person and think, okay, so they're the head of sales in this company, or they're the head of L&D in this company. What have I got that I think may be really interesting for them, given their role and given their industry? And then I reach out to them and say, look, I have this. It's completely free. There's no obligation. Would it be okay if I sent it to you? I ask permission.
Yeah, okay. I love that.
I get about an 80% response rate to say, oh, yes, I would love to receive that. Then I say, great, send me your email. I will get the link or I'll send it over to you. At that point, we're off LinkedIn into the real world now. Now, the theory of reciprocity is that because I'm then sending them something, when I follow up a few days later, they feel obliged because they've had something free and very valuable to at least respond.
Yeah.
And that's how I get my conversations going. So
Yeah.
I use them really as a follow-on from that initial connection.
Yeah. And I found that what's your email, it works really well, but it doesn't work if you've left it too long. If you
No.
leave them hanging and they say, yes, I'm interested, and you come back a couple of days later and you go, sure, what's your email? It doesn't work. But if you're there in the conversation and you say,
Yes.
what's the email, then the immediacy of it really works.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant tips. We've actually got another question. I wonder if we've got time. Should we just take a quick question?
I've got time. I'm fine. You go
Brilliant.
ahead.
Okay. So Mariana is asking, what is your recommendation for LinkedIn headline? Now, there was quite a bit about this in the research.
Yes,
We want to certainly do even more of that. And I would love to hear if you've got any sort of different experiences on that. But one thing that we found was job titles actually perform really well. You know, like the default is job title and company, but only if it's relevant and senior.
Yes.
And if you have business development representative as the beginning of your headline, it performed a lot worse than a description or a solution based headline, which also performed worse than a CEO type job title. Were you surprised by any of that?
No. The advice I give when we're doing training, and we do LinkedIn training as part of the wider sales package, I always say, if you're going to change your headline, do one of two things. Okay, first of all, do not put one of those arty-farty helping people become a better version. I mean, like, nobody wants to read a headline and think, what do they do?
Yeah.
So for me, I always say either stick with your default, but make your default very descriptive. Okay. Yeah. Or go with something really powerful, like, does your sales team need more sales? Do you struggle to get leads? I'm a sales expert who can help you do that. It's very pow and to the point. So either go with a pow and to the point, or have a descriptive job title. And remember SEO, because Google can read your headline. So if you want people to find you for sales training or LinkedIn training or accountancy services, make sure that that word is in your headline.
Great point. That's a really good point. Thank you. We've got other comments coming, so I think, Tracy, perhaps you and I can hop into the comments after we close it live, because time flies when you're having fun, and here we are. We're at the end. Thank you so much, Tracy, for joining. Anybody who wants to find you, please put your website or your preferred place in the comments so that people can find you. If you're interested in reading more of the research report, I put the link in the comments already as well. Thank you to everybody for joining today. We'll say goodbye for now. We'll play the outro.
Bye, everybody.